Welcome to the What's Your Ceiling podcast. We're your hosts, Monte Wyatt and Paul Szynski. Wherever you are in life, there is a higher ceiling. This podcast is how you become aware of it and how to take action to push through it. It's time to discover your ceiling. Before we get into this month's episode, here's a short message from Adding Zero's Executive Development. As CEO, you demand performance and results from your team. If you're committed to developing a cohesive, driven organization that achieves successful outcomes every single month, we need to talk. It's time to see how organizational and executive development from Adding Zeros can help. We focus on strategic planning, executive coaching, team alignment and engagement, organizational culture, and clarity of implementation. Contact Monte Wyatt by booking an appointment at www.addZerosNow.com. That's ADDZEROSNOW.com, AddZerosNow.com. If you're ready, now is the time. I have a few coaching spots available for 2025. Lock in your team today. Now let's begin today's episode. Welcome to the What's Your Ceiling podcast, where we talk about your health, your family, your business. I'm your host, Monte Wyatt. If you're a CEO, executive, or business owner, this is the show for you. We call our audience the achiever because you're always striving for the next level. It is my honor to have Latane Meade join me today. We're going to be talking about his business, and he and his business partner, he is the CEO and co-founder of Allied Title, which he founded with his business partner and childhood friend, Matt Paulson, back in 2016, when he was buying a home and noticed the closing experience was lackluster. So he created Allied, focused on a fun culture, excellent customer service, and celebrating home buyers and sellers. Latane Meade, welcome to What's Your Ceiling?
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. Good to be here with you today. Like what you guys are doing here.
Well, appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot of fun talking with folks and hearing their story, because everybody's got a different story of how they started their business, why they started it, and what challenges they've gone through. So I'm looking forward to hearing your story. And why don't we start there? How'd you get into business?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good question. I would say, right out of college, went to James Madison University. Right out of college, I was working with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I was doing marketing for the tax division. It was the most boring job ever. So I have this like history of getting into boring industries, with a little hiccup in between. So I was playing in some sports leagues at nighttime, in the DC area. And I was like, man, this would be fun to do. And so I actually was looking to move to San Diego, California, because I'd gone on a vacation there. And I learned it was the one town that didn't have a large sport and social club. So we actually partnered up with another childhood friend, a guy I went to elementary school with at that time, and we ended up launching a sport and social club. Eventually had over 100,000 members playing in every sport you can imagine in San Diego. We eventually got into obstacle races. If you ever saw the TV show Wipeout on ABC, we partnered with Wipeout and took Wipeout Run around the world. We also had a night race called Electric Run. So I did that for about 13 total years. And I sold the company in 2016, moved to the East Coast where my family was, my wife's family. And, my background when I was doing sports was all about, like great video and was marketing based. And so I remember being like, man, it was really hard when we'd launch these races because someone would pop up a website the next week that made it look just like ours, but they really didn't have even a product. I was like, how do we find an industry? It's boring where people are just really bad at marketing and video. That was the goal. Bought a house and it was really boring. And I started doing research, and the competitors didn't have websites. No one had social media. So it was kind of a perfect spot, perfect timing. My old business partner, or my old childhood friend in Virginia, he had owned a title company previously, so he could kind of handle the operation side if I could bring the business in. So it was a good marriage, and that was 9 years ago. And yeah, we were Inc. 5000's fastest growing title company a couple years ago. Number one organic growth and number two overall. So it's been a fun ride. And I think the concept was, when you're buying a house, the most important investment in your life, you don't want to close in some dark, attorney office. It should be a celebration. So we have ping pong tables, arcade games, beer on tap, coffee on tap. We have really fun merchandise, always settle because we're a settlement company. And we just made it fun. And then you hire people that are fun, that like that vision, and it creates just a different experience.
Oh, that sounds like an amazing place to work. I'd love to hear how you recruit to find those people because it is you got to have the right person to be in those seats and you got to have the right person that has the same mindset as you. So how do you find people that are going to have that same culture and that same attitude?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, a lot of first of all, I think that when you have people, and if you go to our website, you'll see like the culture and the videos and the fun. So a lot of times those people find us. They reach out and say, "Hey, I was looking through your website. It looks like a lot of fun. I'm in the mortgage industry. I don't do title, but I understand what you guys are doing. I'd love to work for you." In fact, our head of client experience, that was the exact situation that occurred. It was like, I've been in this industry for a long time. I've never seen the kind of fun vibe you guys are putting out there. I'm interested. And so she came in, ended up working with us, was our third employee, heads up our client experience division now. So like a lot of it is like the marketing we put out there, people see it and they want to be a part of it. The other side of it is, what are those industries where people are great with people? So we look at people that are bartenders, people that are waiters. They know how to communicate, they know how to talk to people, they know how to create conversations out of nowhere. And so we've hired some people from that industry. As COVID occurred and restaurants shut down, those people needed jobs, and we were actually booming at the time because rates were really low. So I would say that we don't truly, like, we haven't spent a ton of time like finding people out there. It's more that we'll post something and then we'll look for someone that fits it, but a lot of times it's people find us.
Yep. Oh, that's fantastic. You know, define for us the culture that you wanted to create. You talk about having a fun culture, but I'm assuming you have some core values and have some different things that guide your team. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we talk about a lot is, when COVID occurred, we actually never stopped coming to the office because closings had to be done. And so my business partner and I talked about, if we have to be in the office all the time, like, how do we create a fun experience? Like, if we're going to be here, we want it to be fun. So, what does that look like? What do people want? Whether it's TVs in the office, or whether it's ping pong, or whether it's, a fun atmosphere. Like, we created it for ourselves, really selfishly. And, a lot of times people enjoy that process and that experience. So, I mean, I think that's how we kind of think about it, is if we're going to be spending a lot of our lives doing this, let's set it up so it's an enjoyable experience for ourselves and others.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. I part of our show is, what's your ceiling breaking through challenges. To go out and start a business on your own, you have to have a certain mindset. You have to have a certain self-belief system. Tell us about that change in your mindset or your self-belief as you started the new business.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I remember, first of all, starting business is just so hard. I don't know if I have it in me again after this one. This might be the last one. But, if you think about it, so there was 450 title companies in this area. And I mean, what they don't want to hear is another title company coming out, right? So you really have to have a different vision and a different, point that you're selling for people to listen, right? And so when we started the company, first of all, the one thing I did was I got an email list of 10,000 real estate agents, and I didn't say, "Hey, you know, come check out my title company," because I know they're not going to have any interest. So what I did was I sent an email out that said, "Hey, I've sold a few businesses in the past. If you want to learn about what I did and maybe it'll help you grow your business as a realtor, let me know. I'm happy to meet with you for coffee." And so now it said I was the CEO of Ally Title, and so they knew I owned a title company. But I was like, "Hey, I'm new to the area." But that ended up with actually 70 meetings, from that email, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. When you send out like an email, especially a mass email. And one of them was, the top real estate team in this area, who I actually had tried to remove from the list. I was like, I don't even want to like put this person on it because I think I'm going to get an introduction to this person through a friend. And it was a dumb move by me. The good news is she was actually on the email list on her personal email, but I took her work email off. And she actually responded right away saying, I like your story. Let's meet. I was like, wow. So anyway, number one, I almost got in my own way, but luckily I didn't know her personal email. And so we actually ended up partnering with them. I mean, at one point, they were the largest team in Virginia doing 700 million of volume a year. And so number one, it takes some breaks to kind of get some of those big clients. But once you do get a big client like that and you provide amazing service and they're having a great experience, then word of mouth starts occurring. Like, wow, this title company is doing things differently. You should work with them, that kind of thing. But I do remember 6 months in, like, man, I had new energy. I was out selling all the time. You've got to be really confident with the story you're telling because people are like, there's 450 title companies. Why would I utilize you? I've never even heard of you. So, that pitch is important. And when you're getting down and you're tired and you're exhausted, and you got to overfight that and just keep trucking at it. And eventually, kind of one of these opportunities closes. Right when I was at 6 months, there was a big guy in this area who I had heard he was starting his own title company. Anyway, I got connected to him. They became investors in our title company, and it really helped with like introductions and creating legitimacy. But I remember that morning being like, man, I don't know if this is going to work. This is really hard. So you really have to, you got like that grind and just if being told no all the time, you got to fight through it. And if you don't put out a extended period of time, many times people just give up too early.
Yeah. I agree with you. Marketing is something that so many people just put to the side and they say, "Oh, we don't need that," or "We don't need to be creative. We don't need to be interesting." But you said you got to have a different positioning. You got to have your pitch is important, and you've got to be confident with your story. So I love that. And maybe give your view on marketing in general of how businesses think about marketing today and what they should change.
Yeah. Number one, I think people think there's a silver bullet marketing where I'm going to do this and I'm going to make X amount of money. And I just, yes, there are certain things you can do. Let's call it Google pay-per-click or something where you have specific search words and you might be able to know exactly what your conversion rate, and that's great. But there's also a lot of industries like mine, title industry, where you're never going to receive a deal from an online ad. It's just not going to happen because our industry is all about creating relationships. Now, if I have the best website, if I have an awesome newsletter that's very informative, if I have best like videos out there, if I have beautiful offices, if I have these 25 things and I end up meeting someone and they see them all and they utilize all those things to make a decision to work with me, you can't really say it's one thing. It's a combination of everything. And you want it all to come out in everything you do. So on your Zooms, whether it's in person, we've got fun merchandise, like we don't want people to be like, oh, we want to give them reasons to not ever leave us. And the more and more reasons you can give them, the better chance you have of winning customers and keeping customers. So, we try everything. We are always testing out new things. The stuff that works, we keep it in the pipeline, but we never say this is how you do it. Like I don't believe this is how you should run a title company because what we're doing today is different than what we did 6 months ago and what we did a year ago because we're always innovating and we're always changing. And what we like to think about in this company is I actually don't pay attention much to what my competitors are doing. And a lot of my salespeople get nervous. Oh, what about them? What about this? I was like, honestly, there's just not many title companies that are set up where we're innovating constantly new marketing ideas and products constantly. What they're going to do is they're going to see what we're doing, they're going to copy us, but they're always going to be 6 months to 12 months behind. And people realize that, the people you're working with realize that your competitors are just copying you and not innovating on their own. So they want to be working with, the most innovative company that's, making them look good too with their clients.
Absolutely. I love that there's no silver bullet and and you don't focus on your competition. I think that's a brilliant idea. You focus on yourself. You focus on what's working for us.
Yep.
And no need to focus on the competition. That's great. That's great. You know, how how do you think you're different today than you were 9 years ago when you started?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say, one thing it's cool to see is the actual how the vision came together. And like, I mean, for a while we didn't have a good office and we were stuck in between leases and, we would have to paint the picture. Like one day we're gonna have this gorgeous office and we're gonna have this experience and we're gonna have it, but you got to trust us. And so a lot of it was selling a vision that wasn't there at one point. And now it's very different, which is, people come to us now like, hey, I see what you guys do. It's very innovative. You know, can I meet with you? And so a very different experience of me begging to meet people, where other people, they asked to meet us. And so that's exciting to see that the vision works and like everything we had hoped to do paid off. Um, but I would say the thing that I'm proud of is like we are never, you know, happy with where we're at in the sense of like, hey, we got here. We're always innovating, we're always looking at new things, we're always, thinking of how do we help out our clients, how do we do things differently. And so that's something that's rung true from 9 years ago till today. I'm still as excited as ever with this company, and I think we're kind of just getting started. So we're in 12 states now on the residential side. We're doing commercial in all 50 states. But we're still, even though we're in 12 states, I feel like we're still at the beginning of the growth in those states. And we've kind of picked the ones that make the most sense for us. On the residential side, we're probably not going to be everywhere, but we're going to really dive deep into the places we are in.
Fantastic, fantastic. One of the beliefs that I have is that the leader of the business is the ceiling of the business. And so I'd love to hear how you personally have changed in the last few years and how you've grown as an individual.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I've always done is I've always taken big chances. So I've always said, hey, there's the number one team, let's go after them. And people are like, that's not gonna happen. And I was like, all right, well, we're gonna try. Because I do kind of believe that everyone kind of has that mind. A lot of people have that mindset, which is like, they're never gonna work with me, so I'm not gonna try. So you actually don't have that many people to compete against to kind of win these big clients in a sense.
Mhm.
So we started a national commercial title company over a year ago. I'm in these different networking groups. So I'm in Young Presidents Organization. And the concept was reached out to people in the organization like, hey, a lot of people in this industry here, a lot of people are pushing large commercial real estate deals. Why don't we all go into business together? And so it was kind of pie in the sky. Who knows if we'll ever come together? But after a year, it did. And so now we're really excited about that opportunity. And since then, I've joined another networking group called Tiger 21. And there's very, very successful people in it that much more successful than I. I learn a lot from them. But surrounding myself with these networks of wildly successful people is a great thing, and it opens up opportunities I could never do on my own. So a lot of what I focus on now is network and kind of I spend a lot of time. I was in a 2 hour meeting earlier today, which is actually small. I'm in a 6 hour meeting tomorrow in a networking group. I'm in another 5 hour meeting on Friday. So that's a lot of my time, being around these very smart people and, stuff just kind of opens up when you put yourself in those networks.
I love that you said that because people learn from others. You learn how to think, you learn how to change, you learn how to be creative. And so being a part of those is valuable. And having that outside person helping you see things that you can't see. So I'm glad that you're taking advantage of all those networking events. It sounds like a fun event for you, and it's been business financially beneficial as well.
Yeah, no, it has.
Fantastic, fantastic. You know, let's go to the personal side a little bit here. How do you've grown a lot, you're expanding in other states. How do you balance life? How do you balance your personal life? How do you balance your health? Things like that that you can give some tips to our audience because it's we all have the same battle. We're all challenged, we're all busy and all trying to do everything. How do you manage
Yeah.
that?
I mean, we have 70 employees, so we have a large team for our industry, let's call it. And we have those really good directors in place that are kind of running the day to day to a degree. They're dealing, someone overseeing all of our processors. We have someone overseeing all of operations. We have, a really good attorney. So, something you got to make a decision on is for more time in your day or for more time to do what you're good at. So for me, it's going to be more sales and marketing stuff. I can't get into the weeds in those things. We have to hire up. We have to make less money in a sense to be able to make more money or to be able to get more time in our day. So that was something we always planned for. You know, it's important to us. I have 3 kids, so I want to golf, but I can't golf on the weekends. But I can golf on Fridays and I can take clients out. So that's a win for the company and it's a win for me. And so, like, that's part of the schedule. It's on the calendar every Friday afternoon, happens all the time. So, you kind of have to schedule things so that you can do what you want to do. And then you have to have the right people in place so that the company can scale or the company can run itself when you're not there. There's a lot of title companies that when people a processor wants to go on vacation, it's a mess. Luckily we have backups for every single processor. And yes, it's cost money to do that. But I would like to think there's an ROI for that also, which is, hey, guess what? You go work with the other title company. When they go on vacation, you're going to have bad files. You're going to look bad. So by us over hiring those additional people, it actually ends to more business, more money for all, and it's a win-win.
I love that suggestion and how you've done that. You got to have the right people in place to lead the day to day. You've got to schedule things that you want to do, and you got to have the right people in place. And I love how you overhire. I think that's a fantastic way to think about it because you don't want to, the customer still needs to be served. No matter, it doesn't matter if they're on vacation or not. Somebody's on vacation. You got to still serve the customer. So I think that's a great way to think about your team and how you're serving the customer.
Yep, sure.
Absolutely. What's a ceiling you're working to break through now? What's the next big thing that you're working towards?
Yeah, I would say, the commercial business, national commercial business, started about a year ago. It's really, how do we scale up fast enough for the opportunities in front of us? Because in our industry, and I think this is something that all businesses struggle with, but in our industry, you really don't know how good an employee is until they begin. I was when I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers out of college. I remember my manager said to me like, "Everyone's good at interviewing." And all these people went to Ivy League and top schools, and like they're all going to sound amazing. So you really don't have any clue until they get in, and then you find out who's a grinder, who works hard, who's just trying to get by. So even in our business, we hired someone and didn't work out. We've rehired someone that's working out great. And so that's all in our industry. We're a niche industry. There's not tons of people looking for work. So we have to find great people. And, in a sense, there's some trial and error there. We can do our best to interview them and find out how great they are, but you really don't know until they begin. So scaling up with great people, this commercial title company, really excited about where that's going, over the next 5 years.
So what do you think you need to learn or grow or change to make that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the one thing that we have done is if we find out they're just not a fit for our company, and they might be good, but it just might not be a fit, we got to move on quickly. And so we've done that, and that's something we'll just need to continue to do. Um, and so yeah, I mean, I would say that speed is important in terms of making decisions and tough decisions, and that's something that will be really critical for us to do that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I love to hear your stories and I really appreciate that. as you've gone through the years, have you ever had that roller coaster of limiting beliefs? You got that story in your head, and how'd you break through those stories?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, it's like number one, like let's think about what we're doing. Like, all right, hey, no one in the industry has a great experience at the closing table. No one has this. Is what we are providing actually useful, helpful, great or not? So that it's like kind of asking yourself that, talking with people in the industry, that's important. If you do think your product is great, then like you do just need to kind of keep going through the motions of putting yourself in front of people and having those conversations because someone will eventually give you a shot. And when they do give you the shot, you got to build off it. And it's happened in kind of all the businesses I've been in. So I know it does work. With that said, we believe in about always innovating in every department of the business, which also is like, what's the product we're offering? What else could we offer that we're not offering? So, although you might have a good vision, you might have to come up with a new idea that you hadn't been pitching and add that to it and see how that's received or not received. And so, give you an example, we were one of the first companies to do a lot of online virtual closings, and really push that hard for convenience for the customer. And when COVID occurred and you couldn't come into an office, we were already set up on all the platforms to be able to do closings like that from people's homes. And that was a big source of our growth. So, that kind of was just an idea someone came up with. Hey, man, it'd be great just to be able to close virtually and be able to do this and to save time. Like, make sure you offer that. And so, you need to keep your ears open for what people want, and then provide that product. And when we started the business, the first thing we did during those 70 meetings was, what do you not like about your title company? And what do you like about your title company? And people will tell you exactly what problems you need to solve if you're willing to listen. And so that's what we did.
I really want to reinforce a couple of things to our audience, the achiever, that you've shared. So you've shared some good stories. And one that you really said there is never be happy with where you're at. Always be innovating, always be looking for new ways and asking your customers what do they like, what they don't like, and really continue to that innovation mindset. And I think that's fantastic. So I want to encourage our audience to keep that in mind that you've always got to be innovating and looking for new ways to add value to your customers and be creative in the marketplace. So I appreciate that. One of the questions I love asking my guests is, what do you want to be known for? So when life is over, what do you want to be known for?
Yeah, first of all, I would hope that whatever we were doing, we added some fun. Life is hard enough, so you might as well be having fun while you do it. That was kind of one thing that got me excited about the sport and social industry initially. And I think, you're I think people have noticed, like if you look at a lot of private equity, they've been looking for boring businesses for a long time, whether it's landscaping or whether it's, storage and stuff like that. So, I do think we were onto something before a lot of people became popular looking for boring and kind of innovating that. I think that's fun to do. But, I would hope at the end of it all, like people look back and said that, we made whatever industry we were in fun and interesting. And it made it more fun and interesting than most typically did.
Yep. Oh, that's definitely unique and a great value add to the world is because we got to have fun. And you're right. Life can be hard, but we got to have fun. We got to have fun. If there was one tip that you'd leave to our audience, the achiever, what one tip would you give them for their success?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the one thing I've noticed, like a lot of people think, um, hey, if someone turns you down, it's like that becomes like, yeah, oh, that's non-motivating, right? Like, oh, I've lost the energy. I don't want to do it. I think if you're consistently doing things, it actually just is like anything else. It's just consistency, and you don't have to get down if it doesn't work out, if that makes sense. You're basically like the stress, the pain of the problems, as you take them on more and more, it just becomes natural, and it actually doesn't create more anxiety. Oh, what do we came in today? What do we got? Well, we got three fires over here. All right, cool. Let's go deal with them. versus like, oh shit, like what do we have? Oh, we have this and we have that. Oh man, how are we gonna? So part of it's the mindset, which is like, be prepared. You're gonna come in to some stuff you have to solve, and instead of looking at it as a negative, look at it as just part of the job, and it actually becomes a lot easier if you think of it in that way.
What a great insight and a great tip. Make it, it's about the mindset of how we respond.
Hmm.
And I love that. It's part of the job. It's not a fire, it's part of the job. I love that. I love that. Well, Latney, really love the conversation. I really appreciate the insight and the examples that you've shared of how you've grown not only your business but yourself through the past few years. And I guess the last question I have is, tell us about Always Settle. You got that your what you got on
Yeah.
the shirt. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we've got a couple funny slogans. We've got always settle. So title, but a lot of people call us a settlement company, right? We're settling on the purchase of your home. So always settle. Now, what's funny about this shirt is it really sparks emotion because people are always told never to settle, right? And so people will walk up to me all the time. What do you mean always settle? I'm not going to do that. We have a realtor client who, and this was about a year and a half ago, he closed 5 real estate transactions because he wore this to the gym. And people would come up to him and ask him about it. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's this title company, settlement company. This is their slogan, whatever. So, at the end of the day, you want to spark conversations. We're a boring industry. No one cares about title. It creates a conversation, and it's actually led to a lot of deals, because people want to know what that's about and what's going on there. We have another t-shirt that says you need closure. So, and we're a settlement company, but we also do closings. So, you need closure. So that's a shirt we have, and that sparks conversations too. So, you get some t-shirts that they want you asking, what does that mean? And it sparks conversations, and it's been good for us.
Oh, very good. Very good. Latney, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being a part of the show, sharing your insights and your expertise, and congratulations on all your success and the momentum that you have. So I really appreciate you joining us. If our audience wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, close@allied.com is our website. And, my information's on there. You can email me, call me. But if you go to the Meet the Team, you'll see us on there. But yeah, no, we really appreciate the time. Really enjoyed being on here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, to my audience, the Achiever, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe to the show and keep growing and learning and breaking through your ceilings every day. That's how we make it to the next level. So keep growing and learning, and we'll see you next time on the show.